GALentines. Oh, you put GALentines on
I
there?
did. I did.
This is our, not Valentines, but our GALentines special episode. I really want to protest Valentines at every turn because I'm that kind of lady. But welcome to the Lights Camera Remake special episode for GALentine's Day celebration. I'm Erica Strout.
I'm Bridget LaMonica. So we're doing something a little bit different this time. In honor of Valentine's, or if you don't celebrate Hallmark's greatest marketing achievement, we'll call it GALentines, we're doing 2 rom-coms, but these aren't exactly remakes, are they?
They are not remakes. We are just breaking all kinds of boundaries that we set up for ourselves.
Yeah, we decided to make some rules for our podcast and then immediately break them at every turn.
So what we're doing is taking an on-screen couple through multiple films, and we've chosen to cover 50 First Dates and The Wedding Singer, who both feature Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler.
And I will admit that I had never seen these movies when they came out. This was my first time watching both of them, and I found them both enjoyable.
Nice.
Yeah.
This was not my first time watching either of these films, although I've seen The Wedding Singer far more times than 50 First Dates. I think I'd only seen one time. I guess it didn't resonate for me quite as much as The Wedding Singer did.
Okay. Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler have actually been in 3 movies together: The Wedding Singer, 50 First Dates, and Blended. Interesting enough, they've done a movie each decade, so the 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s. And we did Google this to make sure they were never actually a real couple, but they did become good friends, which I think is very wholesome.
I like calling them the aughts.
Oh, I'm sorry. The aughts. We're sounding fancy.
Not Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore, but the first 10 years of the 2000s.
That makes sense because it got a little confusing after that. We all lost sense of time and space, and we didn't know where we were.
Nobody knows what to call that decade. It's really funny. I always think about The Music Man. Professor Harold Hill from The Music Man. I always think of him because he always says, I was the class of '05, meaning I was the class of 1905.
Oh my gosh.
So that's why I call the 2000s, the first 10 years, the aughts.
That makes sense to me.
I'm ready for it to catch on.
I mean, I think I people say it. I think I'm behind the times, though.
But back to our main point here.
So I found this article about Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler. And it was during the National Board of Review Annual Awards Gala in January 2020.
Never heard of him.
I don't know. It sounds very wordy. Drew was presenting Adam with an award, and she said, "I love this man so much, and I've always believed in him. This moment, honestly, couldn't be more deserved. I know that everyone's rooting for you because you've earned everyone's respect. You deserve the best, you give the best, and you are the best. I love you very much." And it's cute because it's really platonic love, though. They've known each other for over 20 years at this point.
Yeah.
And then he said back to her that, Drew, that was amazing. You saying all that stuff, and it was amazing. You just winged it. And I know you thought about it, but you were so cool. I'm glad we met. I'm glad we did it all. We'll always make our movies together.
Oh, that is a really sweet friendship.
It's really cute. I really kind of hope they do make another movie together. Keep that every decade thing going.
Yeah, totally. Drew Barrymore seems like such a sweet person.
She really does. Honestly, I know Drew Barrymore had a pretty tumultuous childhood.
Yeah.
And, went through
She had a reputation for a while.
She went through some stuff, and she had a pretty bad reputation for a bit, but she's one of those success stories that came back and really made something of herself.
Yeah.
Obviously she did a lot of these movies around this time, and she became quite the leading lady in a lot of projects. Now I think she focuses a little bit more on producing.
She comes from a showbiz family, a long line of actors, a couple of very famous ones. So it makes sense that she would start acting young. I mean, she was in E.T., I think was her first film, if I'm remembering right. And she's had a long career at this point.
E.T., that's right. She was that cute little girl.
Yeah, the cute little BB.
Little pumpkin. Oh.
She's had a cute face her whole life, though. She's still cute.
That's true. She does. Which is funny that she was kind of a bad girl for a little bit.
Yeah, I remember this movie Poison Ivy that she was in. I don't remember that much about it. I just remember seeing it as a kid and thinking, wow, she's really bad. And not bad like a bad actor, but like bad, but like she's a bad girl kind of thing.
It's fantastic. She's had a number of her own shows. She still acted. I know on Netflix she had a show that they very disgustingly canceled before its time, the Santa Clarita Diet.
I think I just saw trailers of that.
Gory, but it was like a funny gory. Like she turns into a zombie and she's trying to figure stuff out. It's a lot of zombies in that one. Before they could ever figure out what caused it, though, they canceled the show.
Oh, damn.
I was upset. But she has her own show, and she has
a talk show.
She has the Drew Barrymore show. She has a podcast series called Drew's News. And she's also on Hollywood Squares.
Like, everyone who is a celebrity or actor at this point, they
I think they're
expected to have their own podcast where they just maybe talk into a microphone for a while.
When you get an agent or a manager, they're like, so what's your podcast called? I don't do podcasts. Well, you better start.
Just as one example, Sarah Silverman does one. And I think she's got kind of a format that she does. But
oh, okay.
I found out today that I work with multiple people who do not know who Carl Weathers is, and I'm very sad about it. And then I asked another person that I work with who is also younger than me if they knew who Carl Weathers was, and his response was, of course.
I'm so
sorry. And I was
sorry.
like, thank God.
Maybe I've seen him in something.
Do you not know who Carl Weathers is off the top of your head?
I plead the fifth.
Oh, wow. I'm so sad.
He was in Rocky.
You're one of them, Bridget.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I'm so sorry. I did not know I'd had a
Carl
different
Weathers.
picture in my head.
Yeah, he was in Rocky. He was in Predator.
Why were you mentioning Carl Weathers, by the way?
I don't know. Just sometimes I think about people.
Oh, that's kind of you.
He also did a guest role in Arrested Development as himself. He did a hilarious Carl Weathers impression.
Oh, that's good.
He was like a huge cheapskate, and he was always trying to get deals on stuff, and he would take somebody's leftover bone from their meal and be like, get this, throw it in a pie, get some stew, you get a stew going.
Okay, he was that kind of character.
He died last year. I just found out today. I didn't realize he had died. Somehow that escaped my attention, but
accidentally I just Googled Carl Weathers so I could pretend like I knew who he was. He was Apollo Creed, by the way. I should have known who he was. I found an article that says even Rocky couldn't hurt Carl Weathers like a $41 million Adam Sandler comedy that broke his spine so badly he was in excruciating pain for 4 years.
Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore, a stunt in Happy Gilmore. I mean,
think that's
amazing.
why Carl Weathers was on my brain.
Oh my gosh, I didn't make that connection till now.
Carl Weathers was in my brain also because he was the coach in
He was the
Happy
coach.
Gilmore.
Okay, so yeah, I know who he is. I'm terrible with actor names and stuff, so if I don't know who someone famous is, I'm just not good with names.
Well, that makes me feel better that you know his face at least.
Yeah. I had to do a Google.
All right, so The Wedding Singer. It was released in 1998, right around Valentine's Day.
I wrote down the couple names in each movie so I wouldn't forget what they were called.
Oh my God, Lucy. I wrote that down too.
Okay, good, because I was going to get confused and call them by the opposite names. So
Robbie and Julia. Oh my God.
But Julia Gulia, come on.
That's a terrible name to take. I would never take a last name that rhymed with my first name.
I mean, God.
I don't think I would be the kind of person who would take someone else's name anyway. I really like my name as is.
That joke was made in Married with Children.
What joke?
The rhyming last name. So like the neighbor lady, the one they always made fun of, she got drunk and she accidentally got married overnight. And then she's like, they're like, what's your new last name? She's like, I don't know. What's your last name? Her name was Marcy. His last name was Darcy. She's like, I'm Marcy Darcy?
Because you don't have a choice.
Nope.
In the 90s, you didn't have a choice. You had to take your spouse's name.
So funny. All right. Yeah.
The Wedding Singer was released in 1998. It was rated PG-13. It has an IMDb rating of 6.9. Metascore 60. I'm not sure what the difference is between those two things
6.9
exactly.
is almost a 7. That's pretty good for a movie rating.
Yeah, it's decent. On Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter, which is the critic score, is 72%, and the popcorn meter, the crowd pleaser score, is 80%.
Yeah, I don't think critics are contractually allowed to give funny movies like this a good score because they're saving that for the next Citizen Kane. You're gonna wait.
Hold your breath, guys.
Yeah, not in the aughts, right?
No. And I know we haven't done this before, but I also looked this up on Letterboxd.
Okay.
Because I'm on Letterboxd at Stratocaster, if anybody wants to find me.
Ooh, good plug.
Thank you. This has a Letterboxd rating of 3.4 out of 5 stars.
I don't know how to quantify that. I think that's pretty good, but not
I think
great.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll just skip over who the director is. Who cares?
You don't matter. Just kidding.
Don't care.
Just kidding. But like the average audience member is just like, who are the actors and who is the director? They're not aware that there's like thousands of people who made this movie. They don't care who the caterer is. They don't care who the first assistant is.
Exactly.
Oh my.
So the IMDb description is very simplified as usual. It says, Robbie, a singer, and Julia, a waitress, are both engaged, but to the wrong people. Fortune intervenes to help them discover each other. Okay, that is so vague that it's not inaccurate. Finally, there's one that's not inaccurate, but it's only because it's so vague.
Yeah, I mean, I think they got away with it. I think Rotten Tomatoes had a longer description that was probably more accurate.
Yeah.
But this is bordering on logline territory, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What are your main characters? What is your issue? Get in, get out. 2 sentences max. That's a log line.
Yeah. Steve Buscemi played a small role in this film, but I think he did a really great job, as usual. I love his work. And he played the brother of the groom of the first wedding, where we get introduced to Robbie and his band, and Julia as a new waitress in town, working with her cousin Holly. Holly is played by Christine Taylor. Well, I always forget her name, and I know her face and work pretty well. She's Ben Stiller's wife.
Oh.
She was in the Brady Bunch movie a long time ago.
Oh, dang.
She's also been in Arrested Development.
Of course. Sounds like everybody has.
I know. She had her moment. I really like her as an actor.
The very Brady sequel. She was in The Craft. Oh my God.
She was in The Craft?
She was in The Craft. Zoolander.
That's right. They made her lose her hair in The Craft.
Oh my gosh. Oh, she's the one.
She's the mean girl.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Oh, good for you, lady.
Oh,
you were in
man.
some interesting movies.
The Craft
Oh,
is...
she's from Allentown. Okay, cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, huh?
I like it when I see people from Pennsylvania. It's where I grew up. That's cool.
Yeah. But okay, so back to Steve Buscemi because
come on, Steve Buscemi. As soon as I saw him, I'm like, what shenanigans is this character going to get up to?
I cannot think of a film that I've watched him in that I did not love him. And also just in general, him being great at his job, but using a toast at a wedding, like a best man toast, to work out your fucked up family dynamics is a hilarious way to start a story and set the tone for the film.
Excellent.
It was really top-notch choice.
It was good. And it's cool because it kind of introduced Adam Sandler's character. He's playing Robbie. He's a wedding singer, so he's there to perform. But it shows him kind of alleviating the situation and de-escalating it so that, the family doesn't revolt right then and there. And he gets some props for that. And that's kind of it's the start of his, save the cat moment. It's like, show him doing something really genuine and really good that really establishes his true character. So I think that was a good thing for him, is to show that he can de-escalate a situation and make things work out.
Yeah. Okay, so there's some recurring actors in Adam Sandler films, and there are 3 in particular in this film that Adam Sandler has used his clout to get them more work and be in his films.
I noticed that. Yeah, he's got a lot of the same people in his movies.
Yeah. So Peter Dante is the actor who plays the wedding guest who gets the kid drunk. He's like, here's a beer, drink it up, drink it up. Oh my
gosh.
So at the end of the wedding, then the kid's puking into the dumpster, and Robbie, Adam Sandler's character, is, trying to help take care of him and help him figure out that drinking's not a good idea when you're a kid. Or really any time, but...
Well, he's the one who got him outside to begin with. The kid was going to hurl in the room. And he's like, you know what? Let's go outside. Let's take care of this. And it's funny because the Drew Barrymore's character was like, I'm just happy to have seen this happen. And she's not talking about the puking. She's talking about the fact that he helped out this kid.
Yeah, and he just goes, okay.
That awkward way he had.
Yeah. But,
that was good.
Yeah, the other 2 are Alan Covert, who plays our limo driver in this film.
He was familiar.
And then Jonathan Loughran, whose face I know, but now for some reason...
Maybe that's the guy I couldn't figure out who he was. Yeah.
Who he played in Wedding Singer for some reason is escaping me. I think he was in there briefly, but it was like a very small part. Mm-hmm. But those are all like buddies of Adam Sandler who he's, worked with several times.
Yeah.
My next note was, is there problematic stuff around making fun of the reactions people are having to George on stage?
George. Oh, George was the singer in Adam Sandler's, in his character's band. In Robbie's band, George is
playing keyboard.
Yeah, George is playing keyboard and has
Backup
really
singer.
long hair, like color streaks in the hair. Actually, I kept thinking he looked like Steven Tyler.
I think it's supposed to be a copy of Boy George.
Okay, because
movie. I see a similarity.
The movie's
there.
Set in the 80s, right?
85. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it had that look, and then when he steps outside, he's like, "Okay, George, play the next one or whatever." What song does he play?
Do You Really Want to Hurt Me by the Culture Club, which is Boy George's band.
That makes sense. But then George doesn't know any other songs, so George just keeps singing the same song over and over again.
Until people start revolting, yeah. which is a hilarious gag, right? He only knows
gag.
the one song.
And so earnestly singing it every time. It was very funny.
Yes. But then they show I think it's Peter Dante again, says, "Oh, he's scary." He's like having this negative reaction. And then it shows Steve Buscemi, who's like dancing along going, "Ooh, I like her."
Yeah. Oh,
but
I
then
like her.
It cuts back to George singing, but then it cuts back to Steve Buscemi and he's crying. And I'm like, is the point of that reaction that you're saying that he's so drunk he can't tell that this person is
I think he was just
trans? I mean, they never say that he's trans in the film.
But the character of George is played by Alexis Arquette and credited as Alexis Arquette. And Alexis was born Robert, and interestingly is the sibling of Patricia Arquette. It seemed like they were making fun of this character, but they were in on the joke.
Yeah, it felt like the butt of the joke was the people who were not sure how to take George in.
Yeah.
It was like the joke they were trying to make is that these people are idiots and they're both having strange reactions that are opposite each other, but neither of them are right.
Yeah, I mean, it's still like we know better than to do some classless jokes these days and, "Oh my god, you're being woke and shit." And like, no, we're just trying to respect people for being people. We don't need to do the lowest common denominator joke anymore.
Yeah, we can do better.
It's been done and we can do better.
Yes.
But yeah, I kind of like George. George was very earnest.
I love George in this film. And George has some really heartwarming moments in there too. So there's a lot, but I had that moment where I was like, is this a problematic thing? I don't feel like I'm always
it's hard to tell sometimes.
Ready with my finger on the pulse with things. Like I'm still learning. So fast forward to the singing lesson that Robbie is giving to his friend Rosie, who is practicing for her 50th wedding anniversary. She wants to sing Till There Was You from The Music Man.
Oh.
Another blast from the past.
A little connection.
And it is a beautiful song that she's practicing. She sings it beautifully. And at one point they start talking about Robbie's wedding night, which is coming up.
Oh, yeah. He's getting married like a week from this point in time.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And she says, "Are you nervous about the wedding night?" And he says he's not sure what to say. He kind of just shakes his head. I don't know. And then she says, "Well, don't be worried about it. I wasn't, or don't be ashamed. I wasn't a virgin when I got married."
I'm like, okay.
I had already had sex with 8 men.
Okay.
And then she does this like inflation math.
Yeah, she does. She
says that would be like 200 today.
I don't know why she felt the need to say that, but it was funny.
It is funny, but also like I really want to actually do that inflation math and see if that's right, because that seems like a huge jump.
Can you inflation math the number of partners you have in a decade?
If you put your mind to it, maybe.
If you're inspired to do so.
If you believe in yourself.
You have to, everyone please believe in yourself to do the inflation math on the number of sexual partners you have before marriage. Anyway, I thought she was such a delight. She was such a little firecracker.
Yes.
And I looked up who she was because I was interested. And she basically returned to acting in the mid 1980s she started doing all these crazy roles. She almost, I mean, as far as I could tell, she didn't really just play a grandmother half the time. Like in The Twilight Zone, she played a mass murderer. Yeah.
Well, that's a TV series.
Yeah, but I mean,
So it was one episode
but
of that.
still, like,
That's great. A mass murderer as an old lady. I love it.
Yeah, what great roles.
Get it,
and
lady.
then she also played a cocaine snorting oldster in some disco movie called 54.
Oldster?
I don't.
Wait, 54.
I-
Was that from the 90s?
1998.
Okay, I never saw that, but I remember it coming out. But it did not appeal to me at all.
It just sounds like she had some really interesting roles, so I just wanted to celebrate that, because older actors often get kind of thrown to the side or given kind of the crappy fill-in roles, and
Yeah.
we're all human beings with many layers.
That's true. That cocaine snorting oldster? Is that what you call it?
I didn't write it though. I got that from the article. I got that from Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think I just copied and pasted it because it sounded funny.
Quite a role title. Okay, so fast forward to my next note.
Next note.
Christina fucking Pickles. She plays the disapproving mom so well.
She was good.
She does it in Friends,
Oh, okay.
which I've been watching lately for comfort, for emotional comfort,
Everyone needs some comfort food.
and for no other reason, because I've seen it enough. But anyway, she does a great job in this film too, and she talks about she's dropping Julia off. The main thing that I made a note about was the moment where she drops Julia off at the wedding venue. She points to the picture of Robbie and Linda getting married that day, right? It's his wedding day at this point.
Right.
And
So catty.
she's like, you're a lot prettier than her, and she's getting married.
Oh,
Okay, so then Julia's like,
rude.
what does pretty have to do with getting married? Which is kind of a stupid question, because
Yeah.
we know what a mom would think about that,
right.
stereotypically at least. And she says, well, you got to get married before your hips start to spread and you get facial hair.
Oh,
And then
my
she
God.
adds, which, by the way, comes from your father's side of the family. And then starts muttering to herself, she looks like Magnum PI, for God's sake. Which
That was a good line.
I was like,
Good
oh,
callback.
it's so mean.
Oh, it's absolutely mean. It's awful.
But that's the point, I guess, right?
Hmm.
You know, like,
Robbie is marrying the most disdainful woman. She obviously got with him when he was in a band, right?
yes.
And I guess was enamored with that.
he
And
was in a
then-
band called Final Warning, and apparently he wore lots of spandex and silk shirts.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was the 80s.
And the band didn't keep going, and he became a wedding singer to pay the bills. And I guess she lost interest in that.
She certainly did, and she waited until the actual wedding day to make that decision.
That is not the move. Don't get that far.
But we're glad that that worked out that way, because then he and Julia continued their friendship and ended up falling in love,
Yeah.
which is the point of the movie.
That was lovely.
So-
I mean, it's kind of cool that it was these people with the wrong people and eventually got to be friendly with each other and ended up going with someone that really respected them. There was a really interesting thing about how he was explaining after he's left at the altar and he's kind of come to terms with it. He's telling Julia, I should have seen the signs, basically. He said something, it was like, he said it's a really silly thing, but, you know, we flew to this one location. I had never been there before, and I really wanted the window seat, but she didn't think to give me the window seat. And we have a narrative callback because eventually we see Julia in the same position. They're going to
With
Vegas
Glenn.
with Glenn, her soon-to-be husband at that time. And she's like, oh, but I want to see the lights. I've never seen the lights of Vegas. And he's like, oh, well, you know, I can't sit in the aisle because the drink cart, like, knocks into my elbows. You know, I'm bigger than you. You're smaller. You can fit better. And she's like, well, I would really like to see it. And he's like, it's okay, honey. And here's how nice he is. You can lean over me and look out the window. And she just smiles, but you can see that her soul just died a little bit.
Yeah. And she's even more wishing that she was with Robbie instead.
I know. I
Yep.
know. But, like, the whole plane scene was so cool, the way it just built and built.
Yes. I agree. I love the plane scenes.
Are we there yet? But you probably have more before that.
No,
before
we're
we
not
get into
there
it.
yet,
Okay, I'm
Bridget.
so sorry.
Jumping
I
the gun.
just got excited.
But there is one quick like side thing I'd like to touch on, and that is the production design of this film.
Oh, okay.
So the interiors of these houses in particular that I'm looking at, I'm like, those weren't exactly realistic designs for, you know, or like interior decorating.
For the
stuff.
average person.
Yes. In the 80s, from what I saw, I was a kid, but I never saw anyone just like full on painting a room all teal, like door frame and
Oh,
baseboards and everything.
that's
kind of
wild.
what they do in a couple of the houses in this film. But I think it's beautiful, and I love the colors that they use, and I do think that the 80s are evoked by the color palettes, because there was a lot of really colorful stuff going on in that time. I'm willing to forgive that doesn't seem exactly like a realistic way that someone would paint their house at that point, because it's so pretty, and it really, I think, lends to the lightness of the story.
They're not going for time period accuracy. They're going more for the feel of the film.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. I really like it.
Yeah, I like that.
In Robbie's sister's house, they're in the kitchen talking about Linda and the wedding breaking up and everything right after it happened. And that whole room is like bright teal.
I didn't even
And
think
there are
about
these like
this.
nice little pops of color around too. And then in Holly's house, there's this beautiful like purple wall, and some of the trim is more like it's like a dark mauve or something. I don't know exactly how to describe it. Mm-hmm. Yes, I went to art school. No, I can't tell you what color that is right now.
That's fantastic. That's fine.
But and there's like pops of yellow in Holly's house as well that work really nicely. So I just wanted to touch on that and say that whoever did the production design, I'm sure we could look it up, but I'm not going to right now. But they did a really great job, I think.
No, that's cool. I guess I didn't really notice it, but this was my first time watching. I think on a second watch, that's when I really pay attention more to those details and look in the background for like clues and stuff.
Yeah. Well, this is my probably maybe 7th or 8th time seeing the film.
Oh, that's it? Okay.
So I knew the story pretty well. It has been a while since I've seen it, so it was a nice refresher to like revisit. It was a nice story to revisit, and a nice film that I always did enjoy. So
Yeah, there's definitely some jokes that feel dated and feel a little bit late 90s, and a little some jokes that kind of stink. But I think overall, it's still a movie that holds up. It's still a story about people finding each other and becoming friends first, and learning how to fend for themselves in a way, because they're both with the wrong person. So I think it's still a timeless story, and it still works.
I agree. And on that note, too, I would also say I kept thinking, I watched 50 First Dates before I watched The Wedding Singer in preparation for this episode.
Cool.
So taking in the humor in 50 First Dates and then comparing the format to Wedding Singer and wondering, why does the humor in The Wedding Singer feel like it's done just right, and the humor in 50 First Dates seems kind of forced to me?
Okay.
And forced in that there's this like farcical style of humor that Adam Sandler likes to do, and he's good at it.
Yeah.
And in 50 First Dates, I feel like it's just forcefully inserted. And with The Wedding Singer, it feels more natural. And I think the answer to that is that in The Wedding Singer, the jokes are more related to the story, and they kind of fit in more seamlessly with what's going on, rather than with 50 First Dates, where it's more random and, I don't know, sort of off color too. I mean,
A little slapstick sometimes.
Yeah. So
He does talk about getting fish slapped at one point.
yeah.
I remember that. I wrote it down. Then I'm like, no, I'm not going to talk about this. It's out.
So we'll talk more about how 50
Yeah.
First Dates humor works later. But it was really something that I wanted to sort of wrap my brain around so that I could talk about it and point it out here, because it feels like an important difference to me. So anyway, okay.
Well, yeah, and it's also very, I don't know, maybe because it's very personable feeling. It's just that friendship as it grows, because you see it grow. In the movie we're going to talk about later, 50 First Dates, they don't grow the same way because she doesn't remember, but we'll get to that. Oh, it's funny because her husband is so uninterested in wedding planning that she's desperate for somebody to go with her to do all these things.
Right.
And she asks Robbie to go with her. And he's like,
Because he already knows all the
He knows the
people.
vendors
Yeah.
because he's in the business, and he's getting her a better deal on stuff. And they're at the wedding photographer lady, and she's finally like,
Faye.
she's like, I can tell you two are going to work out. They're not together at all. He's just there with her as support. She's like, I can tell you two can get along, just like all the famous couples that absolutely work and will never break up. Donald and Ivana, Woody Allen and Mia Farrow. And I can't read the rest of my handwriting.
Bert and Lonnie.
There you go. Thank you.
Burt Reynolds and Lonnie Anderson, for anyone who needed to know who those people are.
All people who famously broke up and ended up with somebody else.
Famously, yes.
I thought it was funny though.
It's a good joke.
Yeah. Oh no, we're not together. We're brother and sister. That was funny how they both went with it.
Yeah.
Wait till I tell Mom.
It was a really cute moment where they were,
I thought it was cute.
Bonding.
Yeah, I thought that was sweet. I think that's why this kind of rom-com works a little better for me than some of the really sappy romantic ones, because they just don't feel real. They don't feel grounded.
And I think that moment points to seeing them building more of a bond together and developing their relationship. It was a very cute moment.
I did find this piece of trivia. I don't know if this will tie in here, but Carrie Fisher, famous Carrie Fisher, who was Leia in Star Wars.
Love her.
She was a prolific script doctor. She rewrote many, many, many famous scripts. She worked on this one too. She basically punched up the script.
Specifically for Drew Barrymore's character,
yes.
Julia.
Yeah, so when somebody asked her what the secret sauce was, basically, she said, make the women smarter and the love scenes better. So she was basically saying, our women characters are often written very lazily, so let me make them smarter, and it's going to make everything better.
Do you know how she got started in doing script doctoring?
I just know that she was in the business. I'm pretty sure she also had a show biz family.
I know the answer. Do you mean to tell
you? Oh, yeah. Well, please tell me the answer. Thank you. I'm glad I thought this was going to be multiple choice.
I just didn't want to step on what you were relating.
No, you're good. I read into this so long ago, and I don't remember.
Oh. So when she was in Star Wars, Harrison Ford apparently took some liberties with his lines and was kind of developing his lines, and she felt like his developments were starting to step on Leia's lines. Mm-hmm. So she started altering her lines to sort of fit and develop her character more. So George Lucas ended up hiring her to write an episode of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. She rewrote stuff for the prequels later on and continued to develop her own dialogue in Star Wars. And has done a whole bunch, as you were saying, over the years since then. I think it's important as an actor because you never know when you're going to be working when you're not. So if you can do other things while you're not working, or, like making yourself multifaceted, like a lot of actors end up getting into directing or producing. There's a reason why they do that.
So, I mean, at least in the 90s, Carrie Fisher also worked on My Girl 2, The Out-of-Towners, The Wedding Singer, and Scream 3, which featured her in a self-deprecating cameo that I definitely don't remember. I don't know if I've seen Scream 3.
If I have seen it, I have forgotten it, but I was a big fan of the first Scream.
Oh, she also worked on Lethal Weapon 3 in The Last Action Hero and The River Wild. Cool. So we got Carrie Fisher in there. I'm happy to include that because script doctors are important.
Yeah.
A lot of people get their hands on a script before it's made.
And that makes me wonder how any film ever makes sense.
And everyone in Hollywood is still wondering that.
Yeah. I think we may have jumped around a little bit timeline-wise here, but...
You're just going to have to hold on by the seat of your pants, people.
There is one other thing I want to talk about, and that is the fat shaming.
Oh, yeah, I didn't like that. But again, we're talking about a 90s movie, 90s, early aughts. They were still making a lot of uncouth fat jokes. This is one of those things I think we can do better these days. We don't need to do that. But it was like the big lady at the wedding in the beginning, like eating the wedding cake before everybody. Are you talking about her?
It was the lady with sideburns was there.
Oh yeah,
she did seem like an overweight person, but there was also the quote unquote fat guy.
Yeah,
and at one point, Adam Sandler, when he's brokenhearted and he's trying to be the wedding singer at a wedding, and he starts singing "Love Stinks," but as he's introducing the song, he's talking about all the freaks at table 9. Again, these are his words.
Yeah,
and he says, let's hurry up and cut the cake because I know the fat guy is going to have a heart attack if we don't eat again soon.
That was awful.
It's awful. And I am willing to give it a pass because, I mean, even now I feel like people still have this idea that, like, if you're a fat person, you are automatically going to die of something that, has been brought about by you being fat, which is not true. Fatness is not a marker of health. We know that scientifically. But we have a lot of very strong ideas culturally about that. Anyway.
We do. And that we're still trying to pick up the pieces after we've gotten some misinformation about it.
Yeah.
But if you want to learn more about that, please listen to one of our favorite podcasts, Maintenance Phase.
I love Maintenance Phase.
Because they cover this very well. It's been very educational.
Yes. And they're very entertaining too.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the thing that gets me about this moment when Robbie says this about the fat guy's going to have a heart attack if we don't eat again soon. And then it cuts to the fat guy. And at first he looks offended. He's like, what? And then a second later, he's like, well, yeah, of course. He starts nodding. He doesn't say anything, but it's an unspoken reaction, right? It's a facial reaction that he has.
What stinks is they probably just pulled that reaction from something else, and he, as the actor, didn't know he was agreeing to that statement because they probably pulled that reaction he had from something else in that shot. And he probably didn't realize, because that's the kind of stuff they'll do with reaction shots. Is
you think so?
Sometimes, yeah. A lot of times it happens, like you're doing a reverse shot between two actors, and if they don't like how the other person reacted, they'll input a better reaction from another point.
Which is why sometimes when you see that, you can tell that the person speaking, even though you can't see their mouth, they're saying something different than what you're hearing.
Up. Yeah, sometimes you see their lips flapping. But usually, if you're into the story, you don't notice it. Hopefully you're into the story and you don't notice it. But if you're like us and you're like, I wonder what they messed up in this scene. I mean, it's fine. It's just how it's working. Yeah. You edit for the best emotional take of the scene. Yeah. So sometimes that means something's going to be a little bit out of sync. But if everything else is working, you as a viewer probably won't notice it the first time around.
Yeah. So I do notice that pretty frequently at this point.
Yeah.
Definitely. But I think I'm also more willing to forgive those kinds of things because I have edited things together and I understand that this is the footage that we have to work with. And so you have to accept what you have to work with. And sometimes if it's going to be a little out of sync, but you get the reaction that seems more appropriate, that the reaction you want, you go with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Makes sense. Huh, jinx.
Look at you.
So I guess I feel like we're yo-yoing now, but I wrote down the relationship development banter is much better in this film than in 50 First Dates. It really shows them sharing a sense of humor and sharing values and developing together. And I think that moment that you mentioned at the photographers is a great example of that.
Yeah, I think so. You definitely see that connection growing.
How did you feel about the bar mitzvah scene in this film? He tries to find events other than weddings to perform at so that he can still make money but not be at weddings while he is still very much heartbroken.
Is this where this isn't where he got the young boy to dance with?
It is.
It is?
It is that scene.
I thought that was kind of cute, right? I mean, okay, so there was this young man at the bar mitzvah and he's looking down and sad, and he asks him, what's up, buddy? And he's like, I'm a biggest loser here, or something like that. He says he's a loser and the other kids don't like him or something. So Robbie cooks up this thing with Julia that she will pick one person in the whole party.
The most unlosery guy.
The most unlosery guy to dance with. And she goes down the whole line of boys. And this gets, okay, it does get a little bit creepy here. So these young boys, they're teenagers, right? They're flexing for her. They're giving her the eyes. It's a little creepy. But then she does stop at this boy and invites him to dance, which I thought was very sweet. Then there's a heck of a lot of butt grabbing after that.
This is what I wanted to talk about. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I needed to warm myself up to that.
I agree with you that the premise of this scene is a very sweet moment where Robbie is trying to build up the confidence of a young boy, and he recruits Julia to help him with that, and she obliges. And then the kid cops a feel while she's dancing with him.
Yeah, I don't think they should have left that there.
You see her reaction, like she looks shocked.
She looks at
Robbie, and he says, "Just go with it."
Yeah, I wrote that down. I didn't like that part.
Yeah, I mean, I get it that it's a child.
Yeah, but
she's the adult in that situation.
Let's teach him not to do that.
Right. And then, so then everybody starts putting their hands on each other's butts, and it's supposed to be very silly. And I don't know. I feel like this is the first time I watched this film where that was something that I was ready to just skip past and see the rest of the film.
Yeah, I would say that didn't age well. That's one of those things where we should know better. Like, don't encourage the young man to just take what he wants. Like, she was doing him a nice thing, I think the proper thing would be she moves the hands and says, you know what, let's just keep these here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
which isn't as funny.
it's not as
right?
funny.
Like, it's not the comedic way to do it.
That's why
but
sometimes we can sanitize it to the point where things aren't funny. So there is a fine line.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to crucify the film. I really like this film. But I feel like if I had been in the writer's room at that moment, I would have encouraged us to find some other way to make that scene funny. There's an old man in this scene also. And in the moment where Robbie says, "Who wants to dance with Julia?" the old man goes, "I'd like to do more than dance with her."
Yeah, there's some uncouth things said about Julia. Well, also the limo driver, his friend, also says something about her early on. Like, I'm going to take her. I'm going to. What was the terminology?
He said she's going to get it and she doesn't even know it. And I'm going to give it to her.
Yeah, that was.
I mean,
that was kind of icky. It's such
it's
boy
icky, but
talk.
it's also like. I get why they did that one because it's kind of developing his character. He's setting the tone for the limo driver guy. I can't remember his name. But you know that he's the player, right? He wants to be the playboy who's like always has new women, around. And he doesn't call them back. He only wants short-term involvement with women.
And later we find out that's not what he wanted at all. He's just feeling very frustrated and he's feeling like he's getting older and people aren't as interested. And this is part of his, the cover. He uses his, "Oh yeah, I just use women." It's like, no, he's feeling like he can never get the one right now, which that's so sad.
He says, "I just want someone to hold me and tell me that everything's going to be all right."
The old man at the bar.
Yeah.
I love him. He just looks like he looks like he's very much down on his luck, maybe homeless, I'm not sure. But he comes down the bar and holds him and he's like, "Is that better?"
Well, then he tries to punch Glenn and they're like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm sorry. I used to be much stronger."
What a random ass character, but it was very funny.
But it worked. It was like, yeah, that's some random stuff that would happen in an Adam Sandler film prior to this film. But it's done in the context of the story, right? Like, he's going over and hugging the guy who's like, "Actually, I just want to be with somebody."
Yeah.
And then he's punching the guy who's the jerk to the girl that he liked. It's like, it's like well woven into the story, I think. Okay, anyway, so I don't think this is actually true, but I had a moment where they're still at the photographer's studio negotiating the prices with her. And Robbie says, "I know you gave so-and-so this price." And she goes, "I did not." And he's like, "Feh-hey-hey." And the way that he says, "Feh-hey-hey," it reminded me of What About Bob?
Oh.
This is probably not actually connected, but in my mind, it started connecting. Richard Dreyfuss, his character, Dr. Leo Marvin, has a wife named Faye. And at one point, he's whining to her, and he's like, "Faye."
Oh, you think maybe it's a callback to that?
I don't know. I mean,
there were so many references in this movie to pop culture and music and all these other things that I wouldn't be surprised if that was an intentional reference to that.
Yeah, it could have been. It seems far-fetched, honestly, but if it is, I'm excited about it.
I love it.
Because I do love What About Bob. And then, oh goodness, the song. Okay, so when they're auditioning bands for Julia's wedding, John Lovitz plays the wedding singer who is auditioning for Julia, and Robbie is with him. He was on Saturday Night Live in the 90s. He did a voice acting for an animated series called The Critic.
Oh, I remember The Critic.
He's also been in a lot of the Adam Sandler films over the years. Looks like he was on Space Force, if you watched that.
I did watch that.
I liked that one. I don't think a lot of people didn't, but I did.
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
Steve Carell he can almost do no wrong for me.
No, he's really good. I like him.
John Lovitz is auditioning his band to perform at Julia's wedding.
Yeah.
And Robbie's there with her, and the band finishes their performance, and they chat for a bit. The band takes a break, or I guess they're done, because you don't need to go on auditioning if you already have been told you're not going to be hired.
Yeah, well, she doesn't. She might have hired them, except he made a comment about Robbie.
Exactly.
It was very, he was very unkind, and she's like, "You know what? You're not performing at my wedding." And he's like, "Oh, you're gonna miss all this." Like,
you've just inspired me to hire a DJ.
Yeah, that was good.
So then Robbie and Julia are left alone in the room, and they're talking. And she asks if he's written any new songs lately, and he says, "Yeah, I don't know." And she's like, "Can you play it for me?" And he's like, "I don't know." And he gets up on stage. You get the close-up shot of the Fender Twin Reverb amp, that like nameplate. It's a classic amplifier. It's a beautiful amplifier.
Great product placement.
Exactly. And then he does a one big chord on the guitar, and he's like, I just want to warn you that when I wrote this song, I was listening to The Cure a lot. So, and it's a great line because if you know.
Why is it a great line, Erica, musician?
It's a great line because it's a musical joke, and I love jokes about music. So it's like, get ready for what's coming.
Oh.
Because it's going to sound like The Cure.
Okay.
Which I feel like is something that I have said in another form, in another way, in another context myself. Anyway, this song is really funny, but it's also a moment where you really see Adam Sandler acting his ass off because he literally tears up while he is singing it.
Yeah, no, he's very emotional
and
about
I never really thought about it until I watched it this time. And I'm like, wow, you're really going for it here.
Yeah, because this song, like he said, he started writing it when he was with Linda, so he was feeling one kind of way. And then he finished writing it when they broke up. So it starts off with like basically, oh, I love you and all this stuff. And then the chorus is just like screaming like, you ruined my life, basically, which I actually kind of liked it. I thought it was good. It reminded me of another song, but I cannot remember what it's called.
One of the other things the old man in the bar says is that Robbie needs a prostitute. And I just wrote down hard eye roll.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not going to help.
If anyone listening hasn't seen that scene, heard that song from The Wedding Singer,
you should listen to it.
You really should at least look it up on YouTube. I mean,
yeah.
There are 2 soundtracks to this film.
Oh.
They released 2 different soundtracks. The first one went double platinum.
Oh my goodness.
And they released them on vinyl too at one point.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot that came out of this film, really, because they also created a stage musical on Broadway in 2006. And then that production became a touring production in 2007. It was a 5-time Tony nominee, but it never won any Tonys.
I think this is where our remake podcast comes full circle.
Also, they got Billy Idol to be in this film, which actually kind of reinvigorated his career as well, because it exposed him to a bunch of younger people who didn't really know about his music.
I didn't realize that because I looked at the credits and I was like, I wonder who they got to play Billy Idol. I was curious
Billy Idol
because it's a difference of like a couple decades. They could have tried to cast someone younger or something, but I'm cool. I think it's cool that they use the actual Billy Idol.
Well, what he said about it was that the reason he said yes to being in the film was that his son was a big fan of Adam Sandler.
Oh, wow.
And 2, he said that if he was going to have to watch it anyway because his son was a fan, then he'd like to see himself in it.
That's amazing. Iconic.
I, for some reason, get the idea that Billy Idol would be somebody that I would enjoy as a human.
He seems fun, and his character in the movie is very fun. Are we up to the plane scene?
Let's talk about the plane scene.
This is basically the ending of the movie, and I think it was so well done. It's that classic romantic movie rushing to the airport situation. In this case, Julia is rushing her fiance, Glenn. God, see, I can never remember this man's name. Julia's rushing Glenn.
That guy plays a great douchebag.
He's a great douchebag. She's rushing him to the airport because they're finally going to go to Vegas and have the quickie wedding and just get it over with. And I feel so sad for her that she felt the need to do this. But Robbie finally gets to his senses and he's like, I got to go find her. And they're like, well, she's going to be in Vegas. What chapel is she going to be at? He's like, I don't know. I'm just going to search them all. So he also gets on a plane.
Because in 1985, you don't have GPS.
No.
You don't have cell phones.
He has no way of finding out which way she's going. He's literally planning to go chapel to chapel to try to stop this wedding from happening, which good luck.
You can't just share location on the phones like you can now.
So he also gets on a plane. And what's really cool is he starts telling the story about how he met this wonderful woman. She's about to marry Creep, and he just realized he fell in love with her. And then, like, by the time he ended the story, the whole section is listening to him and empathizing. And even Billy Idol's like, she's with a real jerk.
You even have Billy Idol on your side here.
I mean, come on. That was beautiful. I really love that. But what's great is what happens after this.
One of the flight attendants comes into the first class cabin from the coach cabin and says, you won't believe what this guy just said to me. He asked me to join the Mile High Club, and he told me I was grade A top choice meat, which is something that Glenn said about a waitress. Robbie and Holly are on a date, and they go on a double date with Glenn and Julia to a club. When the women are in the bathroom, Glenn and Robbie are talking about this waitress who's super hot. Glenn calls her grade A top choice meat.
Yeah, Robbie was definitely inciting it, though, because I think he noticed that Glenn
was looking at her.
He noticed Glenn was looking at every waitress who bent over near him. So he was like, let me test him a little bit. Hey, what do you think of that lady over there? And then he just kind of, he incited it more and more. I thought he was going to just tell Julia what was going on, but he didn't. But he did test him to see what a creep he was.
He did, yeah. He was very clever.
So that callback, he has this realization in the plane, and he's like, wait a second, where's this guy? And he has the flight attendant point him out. And then he sees her. They're on the same plane. What a great twist.
It is. I can't think of any other films that have done that.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Then they, all of the first class cabin plots together to trap Glenn into the bathroom.
Yep.
And let Robbie do this performance of this song that he has written in the car on the way to the airport. Which, how did you know which chords to play? I don't know, but...
okay, well, we're just gonna let that be movie magic.
I'm ready. I'm totally fine with that being movie magic. But yeah, so he does, he starts playing the song over the intercom. And then when he gets to the pre-chorus part, they open up the curtain and he walks through and she sees that it is actually him performing and singing to her, and she looks so endeared.
Yeah,
and
she's tearing up.
Yeah.
She's really feeling it because all the lyrics are very particular about her and her life.
Right.
And I think she realizes that Glenn never even noticed for her this whole time.
Yeah.
All these little details about her. She wanted a big wedding. He wanted a quickie wedding in Vegas. She wanted to look out the window of the airplane. He wanted her to just lean over him. She realizes that he never gave her the time of day.
She wants a monogamous marriage and he wants to cheat on her.
At every chance.
And at this point, Glenn's asleep in his seat, but then when he sees that Robbie, he wakes up and sees that Robbie is there, and then he gets up and everybody shoves him down the aisle and then into the bathroom.
So great. They trap him in that little bathroom.
Yeah.
It's funny, but he's like, Billy Idol, you let me through.
And then this big dude gets up and is like, you don't mess with Billy Idol.
And he's got a Billy Idol t-shirt on. It was great.
Of course, you don't mess with Billy Idol. Don't do that.
That was very funny. I thought it was a very cute setup. A really nice way to tie in the whole chasing the lover to the airport thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good way to tie things up.
Yeah, it is. It's really sweet. I mean, there's just something that really works about this film. I would love to just have all the answers and be able to say, this is exactly why it works. But honestly, you just don't always know when you're making a movie what's going to come out and how it's going to play to people. And yes, there are test audiences. And yeah, I think they did some of that with this film. But yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. It was great. And I have a little segue.
Ooh.
So in this film, Adam Sandler's character's name is Robbie Hart. His initials are RH.
Okay.
And in 50 First Dates, which I'm going to pass the baton to you, his name is Henry Roth, HR.
Oh my gosh, I did not know this. That's great. I didn't make that connection. So I'm covering 50 First Dates. It was released in 2004. And the IMDb rating is 6.8 out of 10. Again, pretty solid. Rotten Tomatoes was 45% critics, 65% audience. Typical. So the IMDb description is Henry Roth is a man afraid of commitment until he meets the beautiful Lucy. They hit it off and Henry thinks he's finally found the girl of his dreams until discovering she has short-term memory loss and forgets him the next day. What they don't say in the obviously ill-fitting IMDb description is she forgets him every day. She can't retain any new information. Ever since she had a car accident, she always thinks it's the same day. So...
Right, like Groundhog Day.
I literally wrote in my notes Groundhog Day for the mind. Actually, sorry, we're not introduced to Henry first. We're introduced to all the women he's had one-night stands with. And one after another, he took me parasailing, he did this, he did that, and they all say, Henry, Henry, Henry. One girl's like, Harvey, some other name. The last one you see him with is she's like, but why do you have to go? And he's like, I'm a secret agent and I must go on assignment. But don't worry. He calls her the wrong name. She's like, it's Stacy or something. And he's like, I changed your name to protect your identity. And then he just jumps on a jet ski to get away from the conversation.
It's a lot. I
It's
don't.
a lot.
I know they set this up, but for some reason, I still had a hard time like seeing him as a playboy in this
I
film.
know. It's funny.
Like it's almost like they don't demonstrate it well enough.
Maybe
Even
not.
though they did belabor the point at the beginning with all these women that supposedly had vacation time with him.
Yeah, they do belabor the fact that he likes to take advantage of tourists, specifically tourists because they will leave. Mm-hmm. And I think his friend is played by Rob Schneider, who is
Ula.
Ula. Oh gosh, it's a little racist, guys, but it's okay because reasons I don't know. It's not great. Rob Schneider is in so many of his movies.
Oh, you have like a whole thing?
Rob Schneider and Adam Sandler have been in 20 movies together. He's in like all the movies, so yeah, he's just whatever the buddy role is. He's in there. He's in there somewhere,
right? And they were on SNL together, right?
Yeah, I think they were just buddies from a long time ago.
Yeah,
but his buddy likes to live vicariously through him because he's married and he has a bunch of kids. So he's like, you got to keep up these antics because I need to watch something. I need some entertainment. But then he says, one of these women is gonna fall in love and want to stay on the island with you because they're on Hawaii, right? That's why there's all these tourists coming in and out.
Right.
They're on Hawaii. He's like, somebody's going to want to stay on the island for you. He's like, nah, I'll never get that close. It's fine. Henry's boat, he thinks it's ready for his long voyage. He's going to be going on a long boat trip to do a research mission. He's a veterinarian at a zoo, which I think is a cool job. But he, of course, never told any of these women this because he wants to hide his identity. But he goes out on this boat he's been fixing up, and it looks good for about 37 seconds until it breaks down and he has to wait for the Coast Guard to get him. So I guess he ends up either on one of the other islands or at a different part of the island, and he's just waiting.
It's like the other side of the island.
It's on the other side of the island. So he's not close to home, so he's got to wait.
Yeah, he says when he's doing the like captain's log like voiceover while you watch him sailing it, he says he's going around the island is the first time that he's gone this far.
Oh,
so
with that boat.
I think it's just
it's really
around.
beat. The boat is really beat, and he has high hopes for it.
Yeah, but I think he knows better than to take it too far away from shore.
Yeah. So he breaks down, so he gets back to shore to wait for the Coast Guard, and he ends up at the Hukilau Cafe, which is this beautiful little diner. And that's where he meets Lucy. He just kind of sees her across the bar, and it's so cutesy. She's making little houses out of her waffles instead of like just eating them. She's making little houses out of them. And I think he just found that so quirky and cute. I mean, quirky was definitely a thing in a lot of these movies. The girl does something unusual.
Well, there has to be something different about her, right?
Yeah,
something that makes her stand out, especially if he's someone who has a lot of partners. Mm-hmm. And they all kind of, I guess, blend together for him in his view, right? Like none of them are special.
Yeah.
So he has to find something special in her in order for him to connect with her in this way where he wants to put so much effort into his relationship with her that he has to explain where they are in their relationship every single day.
That's exhausting. He meets them. They have a legitimate meet cute. They're bonding over stuff. And
isn't it that he puts a toothpick in to be a hinge for the door?
It's either this
on the
time
Waffle House
or another time. Maybe he did start the first time, but he gives her a toothpick to make the door hinge for the Waffle House.
He does that more than once, I know.
Yeah.
But I think that's what happened the first time.
That might be it. And he thinks, ooh, this is the secret sauce to get to this girl. She says that he smells like fish. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I work at the zoo. I feed, fish to the walrus and stuff. And she's like, no, I like it. And he's like, what? But she equates the smell of fish to her brother and father returning from a fishing trip. And she was always so excited to see them again. And that was a happy feeling, is when she hugs them and she smells fish when she has this happy memory. So it's like that's associated. Mm-hmm. And she's not grossed out by the smell of fish. And he's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, she's seeming like the perfect lady for him right now, which is pretty cute.
I hadn't really thought about that as a specific selling point in his mind, but maybe you're right. That I could see that endearing her to him.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Kind of like how my grandfather always smelled like beer. So for a really long time, whenever I smelled beer, especially cheap beer, I would think of him.
Well, smell has a very strong point in memory. It's why, like, if you smell certain things, it'll trigger something from your past or something like that. It can be very powerful. It's interesting how the brain kind of interconnects things like that. But I guess he decides, you know what? I'm going to go back to this diner and meet this woman again. Maybe he's changing his ways. And it's kind of cute. He's like, hey, it's you. You're making another Waffle House. And she's like, uh-huh. Like, it's very weird. And he thinks it's okay at first. But eventually she's like, who are you, weirdo? What are you doing here? Why are you sitting with me? He's like, what the hell? And he has to find out from the two people who run the diner.
Sue and Nick.
Sue and Nick take him aside and they're like, look, she has amnesia. She does not remember you. She was in an accident. Now, for every day after that, it's October 13th. She always thinks it's Sunday, October 13th. That's why she comes to this diner every single morning thinking it's Sunday morning. They talk about this elaborate routine that her father and brother do every single day in order to keep her thinking it's the same day, because they're afraid of like ruining her worldview and like because it'll crash around her if she realizes what happened.
Yeah, they want to protect her.
By that, they really insulate her from the world. What they do is they bought like hundreds of copies of the same newspaper from the same day. They rewrap birthday presents because it was her father's birthday that day. So they rewrap the presents.
All after she goes to bed for the night.
Literally everything. They're resetting everything.
They watch the same football game that's recorded on a VHS tape.
Same football game. But they watch the same movie, The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, every time she's like, can you believe he was dead?
And they're like, yeah, it was surprising because they've already watched it like 80 times by this point.
And they're like eye rolling. I mean, yeah, it's... Yeah,
one of the clever resets they did is her brother Doug goes into the bathroom and refills the shampoo bottle with just like a squirt more of shampoo. That way it's consistent every day. He does it with like an eyedropper or something.
That one doesn't seem like it would be necessary to me.
Me neither. I wouldn't notice the level of my shampoo, but they were really dedicated.
That's and then they repaint the mural that she's working on.
They paint it white again. Yeah, because one of the things is that every year on her father's birthday, what they do is they drive up the coast, they drive up to the North Shore, and they pick a pineapple. It's one of their traditions. But the last time they did that, they got into a car accident, and this is what caused that memory loss. She can't remember anything past that day. So she keeps asking, wait, why did you get a pineapple already? Because the dad shows her the pineapple and he comes up with an excuse. Oh, there was a deal at the farmer's market. You know what? Let's do something else. Why don't you paint the garage for me? Because I painted it and it's just too white. And they do this every morning. I feel so bad for them. But at the same time, at some point, they should realize this is unsustainable.
Yes, but they haven't reached this point yet. It's only been, the better part of a year?
It's been at least like 100 days or something by this point.
I have a quick aside.
Yes.
I don't remember exactly what point this happens in the film, but there's a point where Henry, Ula's kids, who I really do enjoy, and there's another character there who's golfing. Ula has his golf ball set on the tee. He lines himself up just like Happy Gilmore did.
Oh my goodness.
With the golfing. And he does the little couple of steps and he swings. And I think he may have hit it, but he might have missed it too. I can't remember. But then Henry just says, that's the stupidest looking swing I've ever seen.
Oh my goodness. Was it from Happy Gilmore?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it's a total throwback to Happy Gilmore.
Oh, it's been so long since I've seen that movie.
And the kids try it, and some of the kids make it to the next screen.
The kids all like pop, 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 pop. Like everything they do is perfect. He's like, why are you kids so good at everything?
He's like, you kids suck. You're good at everything.
Yeah, that was really cute.
I like the kids. It's a great addition to the film.
But yeah, I think Henry only realized he was really into Lucy because he gets hit in the head with a golf ball and has this whole dream about her coming to him and saying we should meet every day and the day after that and the day after that, and he's realizing, oh my gosh, I'm really into this girl.
Yes.
But I mean, of course, the father and brother end up warning him away next. First, it was Sue and Nick at the diner trying to protect her because they're family friends. And then it's the father and brother that are like, look, don't meet her for breakfast anymore. You need to stay away from her.
Well, they technically tell him to stay away from the diner.
Which they meant to say stay away from her.
Right.
So what he does is he...
Choose your words carefully, people.
Well, he took advantage because he took every chance to meet her before and after breakfast, like on the road to the diner. And he comes up with elaborate scheme after elaborate scheme. One of them, he gets his penguin from the zoo and he puts him in the middle of the road and he's like, okay, she's gonna have to stop for you. And of course, as she's driving her Volkswagen thing down the road, and it's literally called a Volkswagen thing.
I know, it's good car choice. I love the car choices.
A great car choice. Most people are like, that's a funny looking Jeep you got there. No, it's not. She's driving it and something gets knocked to the floor, like a CD or something. And and she's leaning down to get it, and he's like, wait, where is she? And she zooms over the penguin, and he's like, oh my god, that was a close call, buddy.
Thank goodness the thing was tall enough to clear the penguin's head.
Poor penguin.
That poor penguin.
But one of the things he does in his trying to meet her on the way situations is he stages a fake kidnapping where he's tied up in the bed of his truck. And Ula is there as the aggressor, like, oh no, sorry.
Oh no.
That's a different one.
Yeah, that's a
Ula
different
beats him up on a different one. He's like being beaten up on the side of the road by Ula. He's like, make it look good. And he's like, ow, ow, too good. And she comes up and she's like, I'll save you. She whips out a baseball bat and chases Ula down. I'm like, you go, girl. Okay.
And then even when Henry's like, I think you got him, she's like,
you got him.
not
No,
good enough.
not good
And just keeps beating him.
It was so funny.
It's good.
I really love that character of hers.
She's a good character for sure.
Yeah, I can see why he loves her, but also at one point something was slipped up. She was getting a ticket at the diner because her plates were out of date. She's like, no, I've got till May of next year. He's like, no, this was May of last year. Like, whatever, the timing didn't work.
Right.
And she's having an existential crisis because she's realizing as she picks up each newspaper and everything she sees, it's all like in the future. And she still thinks it's October 13th. And you can see her just like slowly breaking down and not knowing what's going on until her brother and father end up having to take her in and explaining what happens. They have a scrapbook basically that explains everything that happened to her, the accident and the trauma and the doctor she went to. And the dad calls it one of her bad days. So this has obviously happened before.
Right.
And she's like, well, I have to talk to this doctor. I have to know what's going on. The dad's like, you've done that already. But she's like, I don't know. I need to see it. And Adam Sandler's character, Henry's like, I'll go with you. And that's when they go to the Institute.
Yeah, the Callahan Institute, which is the other throwback.
Yes.
Do you know if, I didn't look it up, but did Tim Herlihy work on Tommy Boy?
I don't know, but once I heard Callahan and I saw it was Dan Aykroyd, and then I heard Sandusky, Ohio, I'm like, they're talking about Tommy Boy. I
Yes,
love
they
Tommy
are.
Boy. That is one of the movies I love to watch with my dad.
I know that Chris Farley and Adam Sandler were good friends too, so it could have just been, and of course
Like
Dan
a
Aykroyd, I'm
reference.
sure they were all friends, but yeah, I wonder if it's just like a loving reference to a film that Chris Farley did.
I thought that was very funny. I'm like, it's obviously not set in the same world as Tommy Boy because, you know, Dan Aykroyd's character was the brake pad king or whatever he was called. I forget what he was called.
I forget now. It's been so long since I've seen Tommy Boy.
He's a doctor in this movie. So obviously not the same world, but very funny reference. So at the Institute, this is where they are studying brain science and basically a lot of people with amnesia. They meet 10-second Tom, who can't remember anything past 10 seconds. Hi, I'm Tom. What's your name? Hi, I'm Tom. What's your name? Over and over again. So he's kind of a funny character, but apparently it is actually accurate. There are some people who have memory problems that bad.
Here's where we meet Alan Covert, who played the limo driver in The Wedding Singer.
Wait, what did he play in this movie? I didn't realize.
10-second Tom.
Stop it. He didn't look the same to me. That's funny.
Hi, I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom.
Yeah.
That's funny. So at the Institute is where she finds out she has Goldfield syndrome. This is a fictional name, but it is a real condition. So Goldfield syndrome is the name they gave it in the movie, but the real name is enterograde amnesia, which is basically the type of amnesia she has that she keeps reliving the same day over and over again.
That sounds like a terrifying way to live. I got to be honest.
Honestly, there's a darker read to this story that's definitely a horror film.
Maybe that's a remake we could make.
Okay,
50 First Dates as a horror film.
Yeah. The day that never ends.
Oh my God.
So enterograde amnesia, it's a type of amnesia that's caused by a form of brain damage, usually to the hippocampus region of the brain, which is where you retain memory. And specifically, this version was short-term memory. So this explains she can still brush her teeth. She can still talk and do this and that. She knows everything up until this certain date, but nothing beyond that. She never advances any further days after that.
I think I would journal obsessively.
I think I would too, like after that, because I would want to know what's going on. But then again, every day you're having to catch up again. That sounds so tiring.
Well, maybe you don't have to read it every day.
Yeah, maybe you give yourself
But you
the
just
cliff
have
notes.
it if you need it.
Yeah. I'm going to get back to the real life story of the amnesia because I feel
Please
like...
do.
Yeah, I think we should try to wrap up what actually happens in the movie. So I think Henry realizes that she needs to know. And her family was trying to protect her so much that it was too much protection. Like they're basically suffocating her in this protection. She ends up being okay after a little while, and she basically got into the form of acceptance where she's like, this is what I got to deal with. So what he does is he makes a VHS tape instead of the really traumatic looking scrapbook of horrors that her father put together.
Scrapbook of horrors.
I mean, really. So Henry makes a VHS tape that's basically a clip show. It shows the stuff that happened, the car accident and why she can't remember anything. And then he shows clips of them meeting, and he does some reenactments with Ula, which is very funny and very inappropriate. But then he says this one thing directly to the camera, to her. Hi, I'm Henry. I like you. You like me most days. Because not every time worked out when he tried to pick her up at the diner. Not every time worked. So it was funny that he said most days. So he's being honest.
I feel like that was an important stipulation there because also it's a little forceful to just say you like me to somebody who doesn't know who you are.
Yeah.
Because of the way their memory works.
And he cushions it a little bit with most days.
Yeah. I think that was a smart move.
But she does come to terms a little faster now because of this VHS tape. And I feel like this is a commentary on the fact that there's some growth with a little bit of pain. Because like you have to know about the bad stuff in order to move forward. Now, she can never fully move forward, but at least she's not stuck in a time loop anymore. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, she does move forward.
Well, and there's the part where she dreams about him.
Yeah, so she breaks up with him first. There's one day when she decides, you know what, I can't trap you in this, having to remind me every day, and she feels really guilty, so she deletes everything about him in her journal. Like, she started keeping a journal about every day. Mm-hmm. She rips out all the pages and then burns them. Yeah. And doesn't look at this tape anymore and stuff. So she deletes him from her memory. And soon she's living at the institute, but she's also teaching art classes.
Because she also feels like she's a burden to her father and brother.
Yeah, this is when she felt she was a burden.
It's so not only Henry.
One day when she gave up on both.
Yes.
She's at the institute, but she's teaching art classes. So she's kind of a patient, but she's also kind of staff in a way. It's kind of interesting. Yeah. And she's teaching painting. And he enters the room. He was going to go on this research trip that was going to take him away for months and months. But he decided, no, I got to go see her. Again, it's like the end of The Wedding Singer. He's like, I got to meet her. I got to see her. I got to get on the plane, you know?
Yeah.
This version is him going. I got
to make it to the airport.
I got to get there in time. This version is he goes to the institute in search of her, bumps into 10-second time. Hi, I'm Tom. Yes, we've met. Oh, yeah. Oh, hi, I'm Tom. He meets her in the art room. And she just locks eyes with him, and I was thinking, oh my God, I hope she remembers him this time. And he's like, hi, I'm Henry. Do you remember me? And she's like, no. But then she's like, come with me. She takes him into her room, and there's just painting after painting after painting of him. She's like, you've been in my dreams, and I keep painting you. Who are you to me? And it's really kind of beautiful that in some way she did remember him, and it came out in the art.
Yeah.
Which is a real thing.
That's a real thing?
I read an article in Psychology Today about this type of amnesia, which was very interesting. I find them to be very accessible with this stuff. Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed that publication before.
Yeah. This article is really good. And I link every article and stuff we mention. I put it in the show notes if you ever see that. It's available there. But this author was...
You're a better host than me.
I'm doing my darndest, okay? I'm doing my best. This author of this article was saying, while admittedly super cheesy, there is actual validity to this ending. I said before that with anterograde amnesia, new memories are in fact being encoded and stored in the brain. The problem is that the patient can't access the memories. However, we know that amnesia patients can still be affected by the memories in surprising and interesting ways. So she was talking about the painting scene. She references a real person named Clive. He didn't recognize his children. However, he did continue to recognize his wife even as she aged. So he still recognized her anyway.
Huh.
He said after a time he kind of got used to it. Interesting. She said that some of these patients will keep a journal of thoughts. In this case, Clive denied that the journal existed, but when he was asked where the journal was, he knew where it was. Very interesting memory conundrum there.
That is interesting. How unusual. Okay. God, brains are so neat.
Yeah. But 50 First Dates is based on a woman in England named Michelle Philpotts. She was in 2 catastrophic car accidents in 1985 and 1990. And over the next 4 years, her memory got worse over the next 4 years. She also had seizures, unfortunately.
Ooh.
By 1994,
That sounds scary.
By 1994 is when it got worse. She lost her job because this is when they found out that her memory was messed up. She was at her job and she was just photocopying the same document over and over and over again. She lost the ability to form any new memories at all, which is so sad. She wakes up every morning thinking it's 1994. An operation in 2005 did help her with her seizures, but her memory was still perpetually being erased. So that is literally what 50 First Dates is based on, is her story. Now, Philpotts and her husband were together, like they were either dating or fiancés or whatever when she had her accident. So she does know who he is, which is good. But she needs to be shown their wedding album every day to remember that they were married or to know that they're married.
Okay.
So her husband is basically Adam Sandler's character. He's always helping her fill in the gaps with his memory, and they just kind of go back and forth. After some time, she would use like sticky notes and smartphone reminders to keep her up to date with things, which it seems like she got to a point of being able to manage, but I still can't imagine being in this kind of situation. To me, it's very tragic. Like, I actually ended the movie feeling very sad. But I thought it was still a good movie. Like, I enjoyed most of this movie, but the ending is a little bit sad and happy. It's bittersweet because she wakes up and
That's
there's
a good word for it.
Yeah, she wakes up and there's a new tape. She doesn't know it's a new tape, and she watches the whole thing again. And then Henry says, "When you're ready, come up and meet us and we'll have breakfast together." So she goes upstairs and it's the boat. It's been beautifully refurbished. There's Henry, there's her father, and there's this little girl, this little blonde girl. And he's like, "Hey, hon, welcome. Do you want to meet your daughter?" And it was so bittersweet because you could see all these emotions just shifting on her face, just like shock and also like, "Oh my God, that's really my kid." Like, and she, to her credit, she immediately picks up the little baby, little toddler, and is cradling her, and she seems like she's in love, but she's also in shock at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's what I found so sad, is that she can't remember anything that happens with her child. I think that just hit me so hard. She still finds happiness in it, that she's kind of come to terms, so maybe that's how they work it. I mean, I was honestly expecting for a Hollywood ending. I was expecting her to get hit in the head again, and now she can remember things.
Suddenly she's healed.
Oh my God, everything's fixed and wrapped up in a bow. But no, that's not what happens, and that's not what happened to the real life story either. So maybe it's fair that they did it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had some real feelings about this movie.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
I think I got too distracted with the forcefully inserted, like, random humor moments.
Yeah, like the vet tech. So we could talk about the vet tech real quick. Lucia is playing a very, I don't know, I think is she playing like an Eastern European character? Like, she seems almost like... I was
guessing maybe Austrian?
Yeah, something like that. She's got braids wrapped around her hair, and she's like...
The braids make me think Austrian.
Yeah, I was thinking like Heidi, you know, like...
Yeah, which was
like Switzerland?
Switzerland. Okay, yeah. So kind of similar to Austria, though they're right next to each other.
They're playing her off as this crazy foreigner who is very romantically inclined, but just can't catch a break.
There's also a very eager vet tech.
Very eager vet tech. And he does some not so nice stuff to her in the beginning. He has the walrus throw up on her, which I could go without those scenes going forward.
Yeah.
That was gross. But then he's like, "That'll teach her to eat my roast beef sandwich." Like, that was extreme, buddy.
I think he says the puke was a surprise. He's like, "I could tell you needed a burp, but I didn't expect you to puke like that. But that'll teach her to eat my sandwich."
Dang.
A little out of proportion. Eating someone's sandwich does not mean that a walrus should throw up on you. I do love the animal stuff in this. I mean, I'm a sucker for an animal anyway.
Yeah.
So
the penguin was great.
The penguin's so cute. The walrus is funny.
I love the animal stuff too. That's so sweet. And of course, this is another movie, which this happens in a lot of Adam Sandler movies, where he's playing the guitar at some point and singing.
It wouldn't be an Adam Sandler movie without it. And he does like a really nice heartfelt song about Lucy. You know, forgetful Lucy.
It was so cute, honestly. But I think it made her a little sad by the end.
Yeah. It's talking about how she's forgetful, but also how much he loves her, which is really sweet.
Now,
it's bittersweet.
We talked about a bunch of our leading people here that people will recognize. Doug, her brother, is played by Sean Astin.
In an unusual comic role for him.
He's a steroid abusing doofus.
This is after he did Lord of the Rings.
This is after, which is hilarious. Oh, and I just realized this. Maya Rudolph, who is a comic, and she's been in SNL for some time now. She was also in this movie as Lucy's friend at the beach party, the pregnant friend.
I love Maya Rudolph.
Yeah, she's great. She's got a great voice. I love her voice.
She has a great voice. I have liked her in pretty much everything I've seen her in. And she also is the daughter of Minnie Riperton, whose name I might be mispronouncing.
I don't know who this woman is.
I don't really know her by name, but I remember this song that she sang that became very famous that went, "Loving you.
Oh, really?
It's easy 'cause you're beautiful."
Oh my god.
She had a very strong voice, and that was her song. Yeah, and then you hit that high F or whatever, which I'm not going to do right now.
Dude, I was just going to talk about how Maya has a beautiful voice just in general, and she's also in a lot of animation, including Luca, which is very cute, and Big Mouth, in which she plays the female hormone monster.
Oh,
and she's
so good.
She's always talking about, like, let's relax and have a nice bubba bath. I love her voice.
The hormone monstress.
Yes, the monstress.
If I'm getting it right.
Connie. She's iconic.
Yes, and she is. It says maybe they're not married, but she has been in a relationship with filmmaker Paul Thomas Anderson since 2001. Quoting here from Wikipedia.
Yay! Thank you, Wikipedia.
And they have children together. So
look at you.
Okay, so she was a cast member on Saturday Night Live when she filmed 50 First Dates. So her tenure on Saturday Night Live included 2004 at the very least.
That's a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like 50 First Dates is one of her earlier movies because on her IMDb there's a number of titles before that, but none of them are familiar to me. Mm-hmm. A couple of TV series, probably as bit characters, but oh my gosh, she was in Soul Survivors.
What is that?
Apparently a really terrible horror movie. I need to watch it sometime. They covered it on this podcast called Scream, where they talk about a lot of bad horror movies and some good ones.
Yeah.
I borrowed the DVD from a friend. I do intend to watch it, and possibly with a glass of wine, because I think it's going to be that bad. It's got a 3.9.
Let me know if you want company, because that sounds fun.
Girls' Day.
Let's just go over to Kira's house.
That's how this started. Okay, maybe we will.
We have this friend, y'all. Her name is Kira.
And she listens to our podcast, so we got to shout her out now.
She was our first review.
She was.
And we love watching movies at her house. And we spent last Thanksgiving at her house. The three of us are...
It was lovely.
Yeah. We're a little trio.
I love it.
And I love us.
Yeah. And we love watching movies together and getting our commentary. Yeah. I love it when she's just like, that would never happen. Kira, it's just a movie. That's no excuse. I could do better.
She knows what she's talking about, too.
We enjoy watching movies with her.
You might hear more about her in the future.
Yeah, you might hear her in the future. We'll see. We'll see what episode that happens on. Oh, there was one little thing about one of the times he's acting kind of sleazy in this movie.
Let's hear a little thing.
Okay. After Lucy decides, you know what, I don't want to be with you anymore, and he's trying to move on, he goes on a date with this woman, and he's kind of trying to be sleazy like he was before. He took her out, and she's got the world's biggest margarita in front of her. I think they call them fishbowl margaritas.
It's one of those fishbowl blue drinks.
Oh my gosh. And she is slurping this sucker down. I'm pretty sure, and I wish I could have seen it.
She does seem to drink it very fast.
She drinks it like instantly in one go. I bet you they had a tube going into the table to just drain the liquid out, because there's no way this poor actress could have kept drinking this dumb drink over and over again. It wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah.
Like when people eat or drink in movies, they're usually taking little tiny baby sips, little tiny bites, because they know they have to do it over and over and over again. So you're basically play acting with your food.
Right.
That way they don't have to reset as much. And you're not like, if you do like 40 takes in a scene, you're not going to eat 40 sandwiches or whatever.
Yeah.
So I bet you they drained it, but she drinks it really fast and she's acting like she's getting tipsy. And finally he has like this crisis of conscience, which I appreciated. And he says, look, that margarita is non-alcoholic. I just wanted you to feel like you could be loose and do what you wanted tonight and not feel guilt about it. But you know what? I don't feel good about this. We shouldn't. And she's like, we still could. He's like, no, I don't think it's right. And I kind of felt good about that. The fact that, you know, he wasn't trying to get her drunk even when he was acting at his sleaziest. I kind of appreciated that.
Yeah, I think that speaks to his character. Yeah, that gives him a point.
But what do you have to say?
What I was going to say is there's a scene when Lucy and Henry, they're walking in this underwater tube where like sharks and fish are swimming around them. Mm-hmm. And they're having this conversation about how many dates they've been on and how far physically that they feel good going.
Oh, she says not bad for a first kiss. And this is at least like the 6th time we've seen her say that.
Right. And so at one point, he's like, oh, this is like the 23rd date we've been on. And she's like, it feels like the first date to me. And he's like, well, if you average it out, it's like our 12th date. And then he says, after the 12th date, I'm entitled to unlimited boob access. Because he tried to cop a feel during this 23rd first kiss.
Yeah.
Loose term. And
I'm like, dude, if you're losing patience.
I guess it's supposed to be like kind of cute. Oh, yeah. Like I get where he's coming from. I do. But at the same time, like stating that you have unlimited boob access is a little, I don't know.
It's a little uncouth.
It's not crucifiable, but it did give me a little bit of the ick.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I felt the ick too.
I also just wrote down, yes, the obligatory Adam Sandler love song. Who plays the song for?
That sounds right.
Another one, which was not Henry, it was the doctor, played by Dan Aykroyd. Later on in the film, he's talking about how he wishes his wife had Goldfield syndrome so she would forget him saying that her mother is a loud, obnoxious drunk with a face like J. Edgar Hoover's ass.
Dude, that's not cool to wish on someone either. Like,
what? You wish your wife had Goldfield syndrome?
That's awful.
Like, it's so bad. I just wrote WTF and underlined it 3 times.
That sounds about right.
But also, saying that a woman looks like J. Edgar Hoover is not enough of an insult. You have to say that she looks like his ass.
Yeah.
Like, what are we... Okay.
It was a creative insult.
I'm somebody who generally loves... Like, if the film is, like, has that tone, like, Happy Gilmore is a film that I really have loved. I love Monty Python. I love all that random stuff. Mm-hmm. But in this film, it just didn't feel like it hit quite right. And I just could have done without those moments.
Mm-hmm. I do like that she doesn't necessarily react to him the same way she meets him every time. It's not like, oh my God, love at first sight. You know, it's not that hopeful where she immediately falls in love with him every time. So he has to work for it.
Right.
I appreciated that. But then there's other parts like that, you know, don't age so well. There's a lot of sex humor in there that is at the expense of women a lot of times.
Yeah. There's a lot of penis humor. There's a lot of jokes about Sean Astin's character, Doug.
Yeah.
And his steroid use.
Steroid use, yeah.
All right. So, wrapping up.
So what do we say about these movies?
Are we, I guess...
Do they both work?
Deserve to get... Did Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore deserve to get a second chance on screen?
Yes, and also I want to see their 2020 version of one of these movies and see how it works.
Yeah, I think yes. I think 50 First Dates wasn't the best reuniting for them.
Okay.
But I am glad that they have done more together.
Yeah, and I think it's really sweet how wholesome their real life friendship is, because even Adam Sandler's wife loves Drew. They just talk about that in one of the articles I read. And I think that's really beautiful. So...
Absolutely.
You know what? Sometimes, like, comedy is so subjective. Sometimes things are going to hit for people. Some things are not. I'm sure this was funnier in the day in 2004. But some things do suffer a little bit with age. I still thought it was mostly a sweet movie. I liked what they did with it. I liked the little schemes he came up with to meet her over and over again.
I agree. I like those things too.
Yeah, so I think they're both valid movies. I'm glad I actually saw both of them this time. This is one of the... Honestly, this is the true thing behind this podcast, is getting us both to watch more movies.
It's working.
It's working. Well, I mean, yeah, we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you guys for joining us for our GALentines Day special. I hope you guys all have a great week. Remember that February 15th is 75% off Chocolate Day. That's the holiday I celebrate. So
works for me.
Yeah, that's good for me. You guys can follow us on Instagram, Lights Camera Remake Podcast. We have a Facebook page, search Lights Camera Remake Podcast. You follow us on Spotify. Leave us a rating.
Please review our show.
Not if you have time. Do it now. You have time. What are you doing? What are you driving?
Don't review and drive. But yeah, we would love to hear from you. If you would like to communicate with us, we appreciate every subscriber, every listen, every rating, every review.
And every comment.
As far as I go, Erica Strout, you can find me on Letterboxd at Stratocaster. You can find me on Instagram at Stratocaster. You can find my music, gorgeousbeast.bandcamp.com or gimmesomeservice.bandcamp.com.
Excellent.
Where can we find you, Bridget?
Most of the socials, except for all the new ones they keep coming up with every day. I'm Bridget LaMonica on just about everything. And you can also check out my website. I'll have my reel. I have a blog up there. Just random stuff. All shameless self-promotion. It's BridgetLaMonica.com.
I love it.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see y'all next time. Or we won't see you next time.
Oh, we won't see you because this is a podcast.
We won't see you, but we'll appreciate you next time.
I appreciate you.